Welcome to video 2 of the new content. You will see the slide has the title Conductometric Titrations. You can see that it uses a measuring device for conductivity, and you will see a couple of solutions by the side. One of them has probes in it in order to measure conductivity. Now, we are obviously familiar with titrations. Maybe a little while since you did one, but back in the start of Unit 3, you would have met acid-base titrations. You hopefully have done a couple for yourself. Burettes, pipettes, conical flasks, all the gear. Now, in a normal titration, you would use, in an acid-base titration. So one of the solutions goes into the conical flask, measured accurately with a pipette. You then add an indicator, so you will see a color change, and then you add the other solution from the burette until the indicator changes color, telling you have reached the end point and equivalence point. Those are different things. They will not be involved in this particular topic because it's purely for normal titrations. So, why do we not use normal titrations in this? What is the point of having a different kind of titration? What exactly is conductometric? Okay, let me show you the next slide and let's see if you can work that out for yourself. Now then, imagine titrating that solution in that beaker using phenolphthalein, that's probably the one you've used, as an indicator. Now, you may remember you would put the acid into the conical flask, you add a few drops of the phenolphthalein, it stays colorless. You then add the base, the alkali, sodium hydroxide, whatever, from the burette until that color turns pink, and you now have your endpoint, your equivalence point. Imagine doing that in that beaker there. Not going to see a pink coloration, are we? In fact, you can't see anything in a beaker with that kind of cloudiness, if that's putting it very mildly. So if you are doing a titration where the solution is cloudy or very, very cloudy like this one is, then you can't use a normal acid-base titration because indicators won't work. Okay? Do these have any use? Absolutely. Let's say you were titrating a sample of river water to test whatever iron you're looking for, and it's murky. It may not be quite as dark as the beaker solution you see on this slide, but river water is not going to be very clear. Okay, so this is why we need this technique, and what it measures is conductivity. What does conductivity also mean? A flow of ions. Okay, so aqueous solutions of ionic compounds will conduct electricity. Hopefully you remember that from Unit 3 when you did the redox unit. They will conduct electricity because they contain ions. No electrons are moving. Okay, no electrons can move through a solution. Ions can move. Okay. Now, just like you did with the normal titrations, you need to know about different combinations. Strong acid, strong base, strong acid, weak base, weak acid, strong base. Those are the three we are now going to see, and you will see now what the graph looks like for conductometric titration. Starting with strong acid, before we actually look at the first, you need to know a little bit about ion mobility. Now, not all ions can travel at the same speed, and that means not all ions can conduct the same. If you look at the little table, you will see they have given you 4 ions, and they've given you basically the ions that are involved in a titration between hydrochloric acid, HCl, and sodium hydroxide, NaOH. So those 4 ions appear in the table, and it immediately stands out that hydrogen ions are far more mobile than the others. Hydroxide are pretty mobile as well, but the other ions, the bigger ones, are not so mobile. So hopefully you are realizing that ion mobility is related to size, and the smaller the ion, the more mobile, the better the conductivity. Now then, let's look at our strong acid, strong base. So you will see at the very start, before any NaOH has been added, you have quite a high conductivity. Now that's representing the conductivity of the hydrochloric acid in the conical flask. And if you remember, it's a strong acid, so therefore it ionizes completely, and with lots of little tiny hydrogen ions present, it's going to be a very good conductor. So we now start adding the sodium hydroxide from the burette. When you do that, the hydroxide ions from the sodium hydroxide will react with the hydrogen ions from the hydrochloric acid and turn into water. Now water will not conduct. Okay, I know that you've got to be careful if you are near any electricity and you're standing in water or bathing or whatever, because it will conduct enough to kill you, but unfortunately it doesn't conduct enough to show in an experiment like this. So forget the water. What we are looking at in that downward slope is the replacement of hydrogen ions by sodium ions. Now you may want to pause the video and think about that. Alright, we're turning the hydrogen ions into water, so they are being removed. And obviously the sodium ions coming in, they're spectators. They're not actually reacting with anything, but when they come in, they're effectively replacing those hydrogen ions. So you're seeing now obviously less conductivity, because as we saw a moment ago, the sodium ion conducts like a seventh as well as the hydrogen ion. So you're seeing a downward trend. That will continue until every single hydrogen ion has been turned into water by the hydroxide ions. That is the equivalence point. Exactly the same as an acid-base titration that you would have done prior to this using indicators. Okay, now that equivalence point is very important, because if they give you that in an exam, then you can use that point to get the volume of NaOH at the equivalence point, which you would then use in a calculation involving volumes, concentrations, moles, and stuff like that. Okay, so if you get a question like this in the exam, that equivalence point would be needed if you were working out the concentration of one, knowing what the other one was. Now then, after the equivalence point, we're still adding the NaOH. You wouldn't be doing this if you were doing this in a titration, but we're doing this just like you did in titration curves. If you remember, they kind of started low, they went up very abruptly, and then they continued. Well, you wouldn't continue if you were doing a titration. Once you get to the end point, you stop. But if you did continue, you would see this graph going back up again. Now pause the video and see if you can think, why would that be? Okay, I'm going to continue, you pause. When you now continue adding the NaOH, you are continuing adding sodium ions and hydroxide ions. The hydrogen ions have all turned into water. There's chloride ions there, that hasn't changed. So you are basically introducing now more ions, particularly the hydroxide ions, which, as we saw in the table, are pretty mobile, good conductors. And that then hopefully explains the graph. If you're not sure about anything I say, please either email me or leave a comment below, and I will obviously be told, and I will then go and I will sort of answer it for you. Okay? If you want any further resources, my website link is underneath as well. Click on that. There's a revision booklet there which you may want for the exam, because it's much briefer and much more direct than any textbook. It just covers what you need, no more. Okay, moving on. If we now look at a weak acid, I should have actually paused before I showed you this slide. Is this coming as a surprise to you? Were you expecting, hang on a sec, let's go back. we're expecting the weak acid to go down, but not to have started so high, but still go down to the equivalence point. If you were, why doesn't it do that? Let's have a think. If it's a weak acid, then at the start there's hardly any ions present, so its conductivity is very, very low. Remember, weak acids only dissociate very, very slightly. So when you start adding sodium hydroxide, you are basically introducing more ions. The hydroxide ions will react with the acid and become water, but the sodium ions are now going to show up as increased conductivity. So unlike the strong acid, where hydrogen ions were replaced by sodium ions which weren't as good for conducting purposes, this time the sodium ion is what is allowing conduction to take place. That will continue again until the equivalence point. At the equivalence point, all of the weak acid has been turned into its ions, basically. Okay? So from that point on, when you add sodium hydroxide, when I say into its ions and water, of course. Okay? From that point on, you are now doing exactly the same as you did in the previous titration. You're introducing sodium ions and hydroxide ions, and they are the one that is going to cause that increase as much as it is. Okay? Hopefully that was clear. Again, please, if you're not sure about what I was saying, go below. Now, I did accidentally click onto the next slide a moment ago, and you may have spotted it, but if you didn't, what's the final one going to look like? What is the strong acid weak base going to look like? So what happens if you add ammonia solution from a burette to HCl in a conical flask? Okay, so you're going to start high conductivity again. HCl, fully dissociated, high conductivity. Now in comes the ammonia. The ammonia will basically turn hydrogen ions into water again, and the ammonia itself will be converted into an ammonium ion. Now, ammonium ions don't conduct as well as hydrogen ions because they're much bigger. Think about it, a hydrogen ion is just a proton. It's incredibly small, much smaller than any other because it doesn't have any electron shell. So when you now add the ammonia, you're going to create ammonium ions, and that is going to cause the conductivity to drop. Just like it did in the strong acid, the sodium ion is not as good a conductor, neither is the ammonium ion. So there'll be a decrease until equivalence is reached. Now if you remember, well, the graph that you see in front of you, when you now keep on adding the ammonia, you're adding a weak base, and therefore you're not going to see any real change in conductivity because the weak base doesn't turn into ions very easily, just like the weak acid didn't. So on this final slide, you'll see that decrease until equivalence is reached. You can see the equivalence point. I think my mouse will show. You can see the equivalence point there. And then from there on, horizontal. Okay, so the increase in ammonia addition is effectively not going to change the conductivity because ammonia doesn't have, it does have a few ions, but like any weak acid, weak base, they are very, very, very slightly ionized. So you might see that line, maybe going up very, very slightly, but for all intents and purposes, it's horizontal. Okay, so that's basically it for conductometric titrations. Please, please, please leave any comments, any questions below the video so I can obviously sort of see how you've understood it. And if you need questions, the resources on my website, please go there. There's a revision booklet there. There are question and answer booklets there. It'll all be very helpful for you in preparing for the exam.